was courageous, and he recognized there are dangers. He wasn't blind, he wasn't naive, but he was truthful.
What has changed today, though, is you get examined so quickly, likes and retweets, and so the public response is so fast that sometimes it makes it so difficult to stay to keep your decision and to say, yes, this is unpopular, but I'm still willing to do it.
I think that's entirely right, and you've got a culture now where people can respond. I think you were kind enough to allude earlier on. I frequently say things that people find totally unacceptable, and I've no idea that I've said them until suddenly there's a twit storm, and people are denouncing me and saying, that this, I must withdraw this, I must apologize, or whatever it happens to be, and politicians get very intimidated by this, and the result is that you have a kind of pasteurizing effect on politics, and people are much less willing to say exactly what they think out of terror of the great twit storms that can brew up. And I think that people like Churchill would simply have ignored it all. You've got to ignore it, and you've got to sail through it. And yes, from time to time you have disasters, and you have to resign. I haven't resigned as many times as David Ben-Gurion, but I've definitely had a few spectacular pranks. But how many times have you had to resign, President Perez? How many times have you resigned?
I have resigned 3 or 4 times.
3 or 4 times. That's not, yeah.
But people didn't regret it.
No, I'm sure they did.
And
I'm sure they did.
I always think that Poles are like perfume. Nice to smell, dangerous to swallow. So don't take it too seriously. And I thought my record of what I did is more important than the number of the applause I got in my life.
I think we'll all drink to that. Absolutely right. Yeah.
But it comes down to our first subject, which is innovation and creativity. Is it harder to dare these days?
You ask me? Well, look, I think, and I advise to all of you, the most important thing is divorce the past. It's a waste of time. People say you have to study the past so you won't repeat the same mistakes. I do not see any advantage in new mistakes. So you'll get rid of the old mistakes, you'll have a new one. Don't pay attention to it. History does not have a future. I'm not sure if we know what the real history was. We know what the historians wrote. Basically, they were spokesmen, for great and mighty people. Didn't care about the rest of it. But instead of remembering, instead of repeating, imagine, dream, don't hesitate. People ask me in interviews, what is your greatest achievement in your life? I say the one that I shall achieve tomorrow. What is your greatest mistake in your life? My dreams were too small. I suggest dream great. Don't hesitate. It's a mistake to dream small. And the greater your dream, the greater is your service. And the problem or the advantage of the future, it has no precedence. So you have to use your own creativity. You have to imagine what will happen. And nobody can tell you if you're wrong or right. Lessons cannot be predicted. Lessons can be taught after it happened. Prediction is a different class, a different tendency. And if I want to be nice with myself, I say, well, some of the dreams really came true. People thought that I'm fantasizing, I'm too optimistic. Well, I didn't take it as a criticism, because when I look around, I say, well, pessimist and optimist pass away the same way. But if you live as an optimist, you have a better life. Don't live as a pessimist. And always dream ahead, dream ahead, dream on your own. By the way, don't take it as easy. It's not easy. You have to learn. You have to work. But if you learn, if you'll work, if you'll be curious, you'll get rid of one of the greatest dangers in life, which is to be bored. Boring is terrible. It's better be dead than alive and boring. And for that reason, I think that to work is a greater pleasure than to have a vacation. I don't know what people are doing on vacations. I think, what the hell are they doing there? People say, why don't you retire and have a rest? I said, my God, what do I want for my life? I shall buy a dog, I shall sit on the beach, and what? I don't know what the dog wants. I don't know what the sea feels. I shall be bored, sitting and doing nothing, my God. So I think I have a long life because I used it.
A long life ahead of you.
A long life because I used the full day. You see, you can live many years, but if you use just part of the time, so maybe you have many years, but not a long life. And I think you have to be active, and you have to learn, and to be curious, to be engaged. Then your life has a meaning. Otherwise, you're very disappointed finally.
I have to say, I think that is the most fantastic advice anybody has ever given me, and I'm going to do my utmost to follow it for the remaining. I mean, what an absolute privilege it is to listen to you. And you are completely right. I think you're an optimist, aren't you? Yeah. You are. Is everybody else permanently? Is everybody else basically here optimistic about the future of our great planet? I think you're right. I basically think, I basically think that today is better than yesterday, and tomorrow is going to be better than today. And all you guys are going to make that possible. We have a fantastic future for humanity, and one of the amazing things about coming to Israel is seeing all this tech stuff, this technological thing that has sprouted, is growing here in Israel, that I think is going to make possible our urban life. More and more of us are going to be living in cities, but living with an ever higher quality of life. And that will be possible through technological innovation and management of change. And I feel, looking at this stuff, gizmos like so I was shown a device the other day that would stop. I'm a cyclist in London, so I get worried about being run over, and what we have to try and reduce the number of people being killed on our roads. And here in Israel, you've come up with a device whereby rubbish truck drivers can see whether they're being undertaken on the inside by a cyclist without even having to look in the mirror. And if that isn't progress, my friends, I don't know what is. And I really think that things are going to get ever better, provided, and to get back to the earlier point of my homily, provided politicians do the brave thing, and, as I say, are willing to forfeit sometimes the support of their closest supporters. And I speak as somebody who was elected by loads of taxi drivers in London, and they are cross with me for all sorts of reasons. Unjustly cross, I may say so. But they are particularly cross because of Uber, which is not my fault. Uber just happened, but also because of huge cycle lanes that we are putting in, and they think that these are absolutely monstrous and an infringement of their human rights and so on and so forth. But they're the right thing for the city. You have beautiful cycle lanes here in Tel Aviv. I'm most envious of them, and we want to have beautiful cycle lanes in London. But I have to tell you, it is politically very, very painful. They want to see the colour of my insides, folks, and that is think of bigger and more important geopolitical decisions that you might have to, that somebody in Israel or somebody in this area might have to take, that involve making substantial.
You have a clue.
Okay, do you see where I'm driving at, folks? Anyway, sermon over.
See, I agree. I'm an optimist because I agree with you. So I'm not alone. But people ask me, how can you keep more or less young? I have a simple advice. Count the number of your achievements in your life and count the number of the dreams in your brain. If the number of the dreams exceeds the number of achievements, you are young. Otherwise, you are old.
So with that in mind, it's important to say, Mr. Perez, you're planning a conference in London focusing on future and innovation and creativity in April. Mr. Johnson, you'll be attending, I understand. And
not attending. I told him we expect him to be the blowing wind.
Okay.
The wind of tomorrow, the wind of many,
I'll be some kind of wind, but I will do my best.
You're the light of every party, we know that. Yeah. So this is happening in April, maybe just a few words about
April 11 to 13, and there will be people from all walks of life, scientists, economists, politicians. We want to see the whole picture from every angle, and the speciality of this conference is the comprehensive look. Not to look at a certain point, but have a total view, and have just one time, only future. No past, no present. The past is unimportant anymore. I'm not talking about the spiritual past, or because spirit doesn't age. I'm talking about the actual past. Now in Hebrew, you hardly have a room for a present. What is present? If something happened, it's past. If something is going to happen, it's future. Where is the presence? Nothing. But we gave up both the past and the present, and we hang on the future, on your imagination, on your creativity, in your positivism, and your readiness to participate, to help,